Hey guys, what's happening? It's your boy Sue, and today we're going to talk a little bit about The Matrix Resurrections. So going into this movie, I hadn't really done any research or anything like that about it. I saw the trailer, the White Rabbit trailer that I feel like everyone's seen. I saw that in theaters. It was like the second time I'd seen the trailer, but I saw it in theaters when I was going to see Dune earlier. And I remember being super excited because seeing that in the IMAX theater and with the music and the trailer was really well made and everything, and it got me really excited for the movie, and I was like, okay, maybe the new Matrix can actually live up to the hype that the series has kind of built for itself. um I like the trilogy has a lot of mixed opinions. I think most people can agree that the first movie is an absolute masterpiece, and the second and third definitely kind of fell off from there. Overall, though, I would say I'm a fan of all three movies. I definitely enjoy them all. I do enjoy the first a lot more, and the second and third I like a little bit less and less, but they're not really that bad to me. I quite like how they kind of wrapped it up, and it was a succinct, trilogy. They didn't like. I was glad that they didn't continue it, so I was kind of nervous that I heard that they were making a new Matrix. And I went into it optimistic, but unfortunately, I feel like myself and most other people, most other fans of the series, their fears were kind of confirmed when we saw it. I left the theater thinking, my immediate thoughts, because I went and saw it with my fiance. I immediately was like, okay, so what did you think of this movie? Like I asked her what she would rate it out of 10, and she said she would rate it like a 7 point like 5 or something like that, or like closer to 8. And I said, I think I would either give it like a 6.5 to 7. And the more and more I've been thinking about it, because I saw it the day it came out, like the actual day it came out, which was probably like 5 days ago at this point or something. The more time I've had to think about this movie, the more it's just not sat well with me. I just a lot of things about it really came off like super cheap and like cheesy. And overall, to me, the movie didn't really have like soul. I don't know. I think that part of that is the so first off, spoiler alerts, massive spoiler alerts. I'm gonna spoil the movie. Even if I don't spoil the movie, I'm just gonna warn you. I'm gonna talk about the whole thing and what I think about it. But I think part of that goes into how meta the movie is. And I've heard some interesting theories about this. Like one I talked about with my friend tonight. So if you haven't heard, the new Matrix is extremely meta with they even like talk about Warner Bros, like Warner Bros Studios, who owns the property, the Matrix. They kind of even go into, Neo is like a game developer in this new movie. In the Matrix, his role as a game developer, and they had like the really successful series, The Matrix, video games that was like a whole package. But they even say that Warner Brothers is like forcing them to make a new Matrix. And it's like really self-aware and kind of pokes fun at like, hey, this thing is going to happen whether we want it to or not. And it's like so in your face and not subtle that you're kind of left wondering, like, is this a cry for help from like the director, and like the cast? Like, are they really just doing this for like the money, and they have no like actual like, is everyone involved just doing it for the check, and like they really think it's gonna fail? Like, and a friend of mine was saying that he thinks the director of the movie, Lana Wachowski, was making the movie bad on purpose, and that was his theory, that because it's been getting middling reviews, as you can see, like IMDb is giving it a 5.8 out of 10, which is, it's not good for a movie of this like budget and size and the pedigree of the trilogy. So he was saying that his theory is that she made the movie bad on purpose because of like as a revolt against Warner Bros. For like literally resurrecting the franchise from the dead and like making it basically a zombie of it. And now that I think about it more, the whole zombies, the swarm mode thing, it's almost like making fun of the people who consume the Matrix and like media as a whole, because I get that there's a lot of like talk about consumerism and sequels, and it's just constantly like this movie isn't even really like an action movie at this point. It's like a parody almost of like the entertainment industry. And I don't know, to me it comes off super heavy-handed and cheesy. um you know and another point that like a lot of people haven't really made this like point as like a big deal, but there's just so much talk about like Warner Brothers and the making of the sequels, and even the character the Merovingian, who's like a really great character in the Matrix Reloaded, or was it Revelations? I don't remember which one it was. But his character, Lambert Wilson, yeah, the Merovingian makes an appearance in this movie, and he's basically like a hobo, and kind of just like comes in the middle of this epic. I say epic, but it's not really that epic. The fight scenes are pretty sloppy, but he comes in the middle of this fight scene and starts just spouting like barely, like super incomprehensible gibberish. Like I would have to have subtitles to like understand what he's saying in the middle of this fight. But he's like basically yelling about the state of like sequels and media, and it's like he just comes in and he's like, all you kids and your sequels and your blah 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 and your action and pew pew pew, we had style, we had substance, and now like you guys don't. And then he basically just says, all right, now peace, and just like kind of shakes his fist and says, I think he literally says something like, I'll see you in the sequel, and then just disappears for the rest of the movie. And it's like, man, like you gotta wonder if he actually enjoyed doing that part. Like he was like, oh yeah, this will be a really nifty commentary on the culture of media and everything like that, or if he's just doing it for the check. And I feel like most of the people involved, like they had to know that this movie wasn't like gonna be good. They just had to know. Um, so that brings me to another point: the fight scenes. The fight scenes in this movie were just super underwhelming. And that's pretty disappointing because we know what like Keanu is capable of, like in John Wick, and he's been like a really physical, like on hands-on stuntman, and like the one of the main selling points behind the John Wick trilogy is like how invested Keanu is in like his training and like the martial arts and the choreography. But I just felt like none of the fights had any impact to them. I don't know why. It's so weird to me that like The Matrix, it's so well known for being like an action movie, and I think these are action movies first, and then like story-based movies second, honestly. I mean, the whole concept, I feel like the reason the first movie is such a success is because the concept itself like blew people's minds back in the day, and it was like, wow, like such a unique idea, but it also had like the action and the choreography to back it up, and it was just incredible like blend of these things. So and I never have thought like Keanu's acting in these movies is anything special. I'm not gonna lie, like I know it's kind of a sin to like hate on Keanu Reeves in 2021 because he's like a super wholesome and like excellent individual all around. But I just gotta say, man, like I watched the entire trilogy before watching this movie. We watched it like the week like 2 weeks before, and we were just watching each movie one after another. And like his acting is, it's just so bland and so kind of dry to me. I don't know why, but he's like a stunt guy first, I think. And all of his stunts, all of his like getting out of situations that should involve like fists and guns and like cool action scenes devolved into him like using the force basically and just going and like pushing people away, and it was like, oh, it's just so weak, man. Like like even the final scene of the movie, or like the final kind of action chase scene when they turn on swarm mode, and you feel like you're watching 28 Days Later or something, and every like human in the Matrix within like, several miles starts running after Neo and Trinity, and like zombies, literal zombies, like jumping out of windows to try and kill them. And it's like, it just totally ruined that whole like Matrix feel for me. I don't see why they did that. Like, they don't even turn into Smiths anymore. And I feel like they almost didn't do that because here's another mark against the movie. The new Smith is just weak, man. He does not nail the role, and I'm so sorry to Jonathan Groff right here, but like, this guy, look at him. He does not look nearly as like intimidating, or as like ominous as Hugo Weaving does when he plays Smith. And I think this guy had extremely large like shoes to fill, and the task was just impossible. Because Hugo Weaving just killed it, absolutely killed it in the other three movies. And like his presence, him being such a kind of normal looking guy almost. Like, I remember watching a video talking about the Matrix on YouTube, and they were talking about how Hugo Weaving is like, he's like such an unassuming looking guy, and he played that like corporate suit role so well that that's what makes him like terrifying, is because he's like, he could be anyone. And I thought that was really cool about Smith's character. And man, the delivery of Smith's lines are just so like threatening and like mysterious, and he does it so well. But this guy just could not live up to that. And his the way he spoke, the way he called Neo like Tom, I think, instead of Mr. Anderson. Like, it's almost like, um I you know he really just couldn't do it, and he wasn't like the proper nemesis that Smith really was. But I will hand it to Neil Patrick Harris though. I thought Neil Patrick Harris, as what he was, the architect, I believe. Um, he was a much better villain than Smith. Honestly, because the reason like for Smith coming back, and like Smith's motives and everything, were super kind of unclear. And it's like, why is he back? Why is Neo back? Like, the whole movie didn't really had no reason to exist. Uh, and it just, the plot wasn't like, there was no sense of urgency to the plot. Um, no one even died in the movie, I don't think. Yeah, like, no one, there was no real threat the whole time. It's just kind of like, we're gonna put you back in the Matrix, Neo. Oh no! And like, the whole movie is like, we gotta rescue Trinity, and that there's gonna be no hitches. There's gonna be no hitches in rescuing Trinity. Like, it even like ended the same exact way. The movie just felt like super deja vu. Like, it was just, and maybe that's another meta point to it. It felt like a lot like watching the first of the new Star Wars trilogy, the one that came out in like 2015 or something. I forget what it's called, but that was a super forgettable movie for me too. But it just felt like, with the sheer amount of stuff they rehashed, and they even like show just straight up footage from the first Matrix just all the time, or like the trilogy. They show footage like in the movie all the time, from just to like remind you about things. And it's like, do you really think as the audience we need like these constant reminders? It's like, the whole movie is kind of like, oh, remember blue pills and red pills? Oh, remember Zion? Remember the Matrix? Remember how Neo could fly? And it's like, it's, the more I think about it, it's like, maybe the movie was designed to be bad, and like, it's actually trying to be a slap in the face for Warner Brothers, but for like trying to bring back the trilogy. Like, I hope that's the actors' intention. Like, they weren't, I don't know. It was like pain. It was like hard to sit through, honestly. Sometimes it was hard to sit through. Um there's so many nitpicks. Like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna go through the characters kind of one by one, I guess. Keanu Reeves, like I said, he's a great face in films, I think. But I've just never really thought that his acting is like all that excellent. I just think he has like this one monotone like mode, and he's like the cool like handsome guy who does stunts. But I never have thought his like role in the Matrix was like, wow, Keanu did some profound shit. Like it's kind of like, we need to save Trinity. Oh, Smith. Oh, Trinity. Like, he did his thing, but he also didn't do that much like actual fighting, and I don't know, just force pushing everything. Another thing my friend observed was that he didn't pick up a gun once in the movie, which I didn't believe him at first, and then I was like, wait a minute. I was trying to think of a moment where Keanu like did shoot at somebody, and I couldn't actually think about it. I was like, wait, he actually didn't. Holy shit. Um, so you can't really fault Keanu, but I just didn't think he was like that great. Carrie-Anne Moss was basically not really a character for most of the movie. Um, I don't know. She's okay. She's still like super hot, even though she's like old at this point. She's the love interest. And she could fly at the end. That was weird. I don't know if that's because of like modern day like gender politics or something, but they jumped off the roof when they like in the Matrix at the very end, and like she held Neo up, and like she could fly, but Neo couldn't fly, and there's no real explanation for that either. But that's a thing, I guess. So Carrie-Anne Moss, okay, whatever. Um, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. I hope I pronounced that right. I thought this guy actually did a pretty decent job of like filling Lawrence Fishburne. I think that's Lawrence Fishburne's shoes. I kind of liked him as Morpheus. I didn't think he did a bad job. He like did a really good. He did a much better job of impersonating Morpheus than Smith did of impersonating Smith. And I think with iconic characters like this, it's kind of your job to like impersonate them as much as you can, because they're just so iconic and so important to the franchise. He did a pretty good job. I liked him. Well, I've already said Jonathan Groff. I just really did not do it for me with Smith. I thought he was super bad. He wasn't super bad. Like there were a couple scenes where, namely that the first moment when he was like he saw the gun on the ground and kind of like realized that he was like he wanted to kill Neo. And that moment was really cool when he like first picked up the gun and realized like this is me. I'm gonna be like the antithesis of Neo. That was a cool scene, but the rest of the movie I was not impressed with him. Um, Jessica Henwick. Oh yeah, bugs. um, I don't know. She didn't really stick in my mind at all. The thing I thought this part was super super cringe, but a lot of people didn't really care about it. I can understand why they wouldn't care about it either, but to me it was just like, ugh. So her name is Bugs, and then she literally says Bugs like the bunny to somebody at some point. I think to Morpheus maybe. And then, not even like 20 minutes later, when they first wake Neo up out of the Matrix, as Neo's coming to, uh, she like asks the doctor, "What's up, doc?" And I like immediately just groaned. I was like, "Oh no! Like, did they really have to just like name this character that just for this pun? Like, no other reason than for, like to make this pun?" Because Bugs is like the worst name for a person in all of all time. Uh, they did it, and they named like a woman Bugs, like just to make that joke, really, and that was pretty cringe. Not to mention, there was a scene like in the very beginning of the movie when she was trying to pull Morpheus out. Um, she like just found Morpheus, and she was on the rooftop like following New Trinity. It was really strange. They like she was like watching Trinity in the Matrix like it was a replay of the first Matrix, and they were and that actress wasn't even Carrie-Anne Moss, which was really weird. Um, but maybe because she was like too old at that point, or like maybe there was a scheduling conflict there or something. But she was like following her, and she was trying to escape from the Smiths, basically, just like in the first movie from the rooftop, and like they were seriously like point blank had bugs like in their sights like from 5 feet away, right? And she's like dead to rights, just yeah, I'm fucked. Like there's no way that they would miss their programs, right? You would think they're like highly accurate and everything, but I guess all the people that like Neo can dodge bullets, and that's understandable, but like she didn't do any bullet time kind of moves or anything, but they like sprayed at her from 5 feet away, and she was able to like scramble away like behind an electric box, and I was immediately like, oh my god, this is just, I don't know why that scene stuck out to me so much, but it was so unbelievable how they like she actually lived at that moment. And yeah, I don't know. Her character had like some one-liners and stuff, but she was not memorable to me at all. Neil Patrick Harris, honestly, was a good villain. I did like his performance. I thought one of the best scenes in the movie was his scene in the bike shop where Trinity works, or what is her Tiffany? Yeah, in the Matrix she's called Tiffany, and she dates Chad, which is really funny. What are you doing, Minnie? But one thing I thought that was really funny, uh, yeah, handsome Chad won't like that. That must have been like a on the nose pun, right? Like, come on, they know what they're doing, I guess. But I thought the coolest scene in the movie to me, other than like the body horror, like they showing how they were rebuilding Trinity and Neo in the Matrix or in the real world. I thought that was pretty cool. Like the like body horror scene we had for like 10 seconds, that was pretty cool. But also the Neil Patrick Harris architect scene where he's using bullet time to slow Neo down, which was really bullshit and made me kind of go Ree! Like that's Neo's thing, but him taunting Neo and like shooting the gun and then kind of like walking by the bullet and like plucking it out of thin air. That was a really cool scene, and I liked his whole monologue, like talking about how they were basically batteries, and they would make more power when they're close together and all that stuff. That scene was really cool to me. I don't know. I liked the bullet time effect. It was very strange. It wasn't at all kind of like how they did it in the first three movies, but it was different, and I did like that. But Neil Patrick Harris, I thought, was a pretty cool villain. It shows that they can make new convincing villains in this series, and he was much better than Smith. Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's waifu, comes back again as oh, fuck, what's her name? Damn, why can't I be Niobe? Yeah, that's right, Niobe. She had like a Niobe was kind of a minor role, very much a minor role in the original trilogy, but I was kind of impressed with their aging up of her, almost like her makeup and how she genuinely looked like I didn't think it was the same actress, and then I was kind of surprised when I found out it was. Um, she was good, but also like couldn't really make up her mind as to whether she wanted to be like the antagonist or a protagonist or like someone who was helping them. She was like kind of glad that Bugs stole the ship and was going to do it, but also was like, "You're gonna go to the gulags," and like imprisoned Neo, and yeah, that was weird. I don't know. Her motivations were kind of strange. Um, Lambert Wilson, I already told you, I hated how they brought the Merovingian back. for that really weak scene where he was like basically unrecognizable. Um, yeah, overall, okay. And so another thing I wanted to talk about, if you'll see, the style of the movie, like the actual physical feel of like the lighting was very different from the original trilogy. And what I mean is that when you're in the Matrix in the first three movies, there's like a heavy use of this green color palette, and it physically feels, it actually looks like a digital world, like a video game. It looks way different, I think, from the way the color is in the real world. And in this new one, there was really not much difference. Like it all looked very photorealistic, and other than like, I thought, the first scene in the movie, like the very first scene when the police officers are walking through the building, and one of them steps in a puddle, and you can like see a little shimmer of the code like in the reflection of the puddle. When I saw that, I was like, okay, this is really cool. I really liked where I was like on board. I was like, hell yeah, that's a really sweet effect. Like I really like that attention to detail. But also the it didn't continue, like they did that in the mirror a few times, and like mirrors, and it wasn't nearly as subtle as that moment. Like you could have missed that moment if you weren't looking, but the rest of the time they like showed the code on like screens and images, and like in the reflections it wasn't subtle at all. But also the sheer like the color palette and the filters that they were using did not make it seem like the Matrix when they were actually in the Matrix. So that was kind of disappointing. I didn't really like that, the direction they took with that. Um, yeah, but the choreography and the fight scenes, the fight scene that the big fight scene in the beginning of the movie where they're kind of okay, another thing that I really didn't like is how they don't have to use like phone booths anymore to get in and out of the Matrix. They just kind of walk through doors now, and like I don't know, can jump off buildings and somehow be out of the Matrix from jumping out of a building or off of a building, and it's very weird. The one scene that the fight scene I really didn't like was the train fight scene where it was just so busy, and like you honestly had a hard time keeping up with who was an ally and who was an enemy, because just random people were like becoming swarm mode people, and basically like it was very much like Train to Busan. They were just kind of like waking up like and like starting to fight, and and just it was so crowded and busy, and like fists were flying, but none of the punches really. I never like whenever someone got hit in this movie, I never went ooh or like damn. It all felt just so sloppy. I can't explain why, because I'm not a director or choreographer or anything, but it just didn't feel as like good to watch. It didn't have impact like the first three did. Um, so yeah, there's a few there's more than a few things that I didn't like with this movie. Um, I kind of hope that they don't continue it. I know they will, but maybe not, because I think it's underperformed at the box office pretty heavily. Um, it was kind of a all over the place meta sort of mess. With the action scenes weren't very entertaining. The acting was serviceable, I guess. And I will admit, like some of the CGI, like the special effects, were really, really good. I was kind of impressed with like with the Morpheus, like when he was in the real world, how he was like that ball, the ball thing hologram. I don't know. I thought some of that looked really good, but the CGI was pretty sweet. I did like how they kind of talk about how the machines had like a civil war, and some of them sided with the humans, because upon Neo like basically saying like negotiating for peace at the end of the third movie, I guess whoever wanted to be free of the Matrix was freed, if they had the willpower, I guess, to do so, or if they wanted to be. I don't know how the hell they like went into the Matrix and Just basically, did they just basically tell everyone, hey guys, you're in a simulation. If you want to get out, you can. But if you don't, like, I don't know. They didn't really explain how they did that or how that happened. But I thought it was really a cool thing that the they had like a civil war over resources, I guess, because a lot of people were freed and there was like some peace for a little while, but there wasn't peace, and some of the robots sided with us, and I really wish that like that story had happened instead of jumping to where we are now. Like I wanted to see more of that. That would have been really cool to kind of see like what happened in the 60 years between Neo and becoming waking up as Neo again. But without big cast members like Keanu, I feel like maybe people wouldn't have come to see it. But I think that would have been a much cooler story than what we got, really, because there just didn't seem to have much agency in the movie. Oh, and also another big thing that I just hated. I hated this part of this movie. Um, was the scene where this is a big pet peeve of mine in movies, like especially heist movies, or anytime there's like a big operation in a movie, like a central kind of plot point. Um, so it was essentially their plan to free Trinity was like a really short scene of actually infiltrating the machine, the above ground basically, where Trinity was being held. It was made to sound like she was in some really, really secure place that they would have like a really hard time entering. And they did the sin of like heists where there's a character who's naughty, I believe, was the 3-year-old girl from the trilogy who became old and started helping them. So she was like a program, I believe. But they basically started talking about how they were going to do this rescue mission, and as she's like explaining it, the steps are happening in real time, and I just hate that, man, because it seems like it all happened so quickly, and they made it seem like there was no issue, like there was absolutely no hitch in getting like to Trinity and and like rescuing her. There was no real like moments of tension other than her unplugging from the Matrix and when Neo had to go in himself to like convince her to like leave it, essentially. But like getting to where she was physically was just like no big deal. No big deal at all. But they sent in Morpheus in like AI ball mode, and he kind of like snuck in, and then the rest of the crew just kind of like rode in on their fucking robot, and it was like, isn't this supposed to be some heavily guarded area that's just not like accessible? And in the first three movies, like the above ground, the machine world essentially is like no one's ever been there. Like it's really a dangerous place, but they kind of go there like a few times, and no one's injured, no one's like captured, nothing happens, and that was really really disappointing. Like they just kind of walk up to Trinity like, "Yep, we're here now. Let's jack in and get her." And they're like, "First, we got to do this really." I hate when movies do that. It's going to be a really difficult operation, guys. I don't know if we're going to make it. And they even at one point, some of the side characters who are like in the crew are like, "Yeah, we're most definitely gonna die, like because of this, because like Neo's whole crew died beforehand, and they like basically know that they're like throwaway characters, which is another meta point, I guess. We're like, yep, we're definitely gonna die at some point, and then none of them do. So I don't know. It's the movie was blah. Maybe it is some meta masterpiece, and like it's just too deep 5 me, which I doubt. Like, but I don't know. Maybe it is like a revolution against Warner Brothers, like internally, and maybe it isn't. But I think they tried to take this angle and it didn't really pan out. Overall, movie was kind of disappointing. Really disappointing. I've been ranting for like 35 minutes about this. But yeah, Dune was the movie of the year for me. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see a lot of other movies really. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But Dune was a lot better than this movie. um, yeah. Uh, The Matrix 4 should not have existed. Um, it really shouldn't have. There's no reason to literally resurrect this old corpse from the dead. But I don't know. I guess they tried. Anyway, tell me what you think about the movie in the comments. Sorry for the long video. I'm passionate about the series. I really love the first three movies. I really was expecting better things from this. But, you know, the sequels and with sequel track record in movies, I'm not I'm not expecting anything from the Matrix 5. It'll probably even have like a lower budget than the first one than of the new trilogy, if it's going to be a trilogy, because I don't think it's succeeded as well as they thought it would. But so the series should have just stayed in the ground. And this is the kind of thing, the way I feel about like other franchises like Halo and Call of Duty, and they really should just let these like Gears of War, like all these things just stay dead. Ghostbusters, I mean, God, like, is there no more originality these days? It's a damn shame. Anyway, sorry for the rant, but that's enough for me. All right, peace out.